Welcome back to the University of Law podcast. I'm Nic Ashton, Alumni Manager here at ULaw, with our guest Paul Loynes. Paul's career has spanned over 25 years. He trained at Clifford Chance and has worked as a partner at a major US law firm and now runs his own consultancy, Lemox Consulting. Alongside his work, Paul also dedicates his time to our legal advice clinic, offering pro bono support and mentoring to ULaw students. Hi Paul, welcome. You've had such a varied career, from magic circle law firms to global investment firms. Looking back, did you have a clear career path from the outset?
Well, the obvious answer would be to try and say yes, but of course that's not the case. And I think as we are in changing times with, and I'm sure some things that we'll touch upon in the legal world with AI and how things exist. So when I started in 1996, what I now do didn't exist. And so no, there was no grand plan. But I would like to think I was always curious and flexible and was always well mentored. And so to answer your question, no, it wasn't a master plan.
And I think I know what you're going to say to this because of you saying that the job didn't exist. Is there a skill that you've developed outside of law that's been unexpectedly valuable?
I think it's just always goes back to a simple concept of intellectual curiosity. Whether that's about the law or whether that's about what you do outside the law, but you've got to be intellectually curious because there is no way that any of us can now predict what the current students will be doing in 2040, 2050, 25 years' time. So I've been doing this for 25 years, so by definition, the next people of my age will be in 2050. No one knows what they're going to be doing. And so I've always thrived and enjoyed that intellectual curiosity and never being self-pigeonholed.
So constantly learning new things and developing yourself to make sure that you know what's going on in the landscape.
And sometimes, Nick, it's not so regimented. It's not, okay, today I must learn about so-and-so. Mm-hmm. It's just about having a freshness about learning. I'm obviously older than most of the people that we're viewing this pod, but I still love learning. Yeah. I still love learning new things. I still wake up, and if someone sends me a link about something I didn't know before, and also having teenage kids, I learn from them. So it's just the ability to keep wanting to learn and never think that you've learnt enough.
Thank you. I'm going to ask you about AI now. Big question, big topic at the moment. Having worked in and with legal technology companies such as Robin, have you seen AI change the legal landscape? Yes,
and in some bad ways, but in some good ways. So I have been a consultant to an AI business, as you mentioned, and I am now a director of a business in Abu Dhabi that effectively builds the data centers to effectively process AI. It's fascinating and it's so quickly moving. So I think the difficulty for law firms is going to be the tasks that junior lawyers used to do can become commoditized, but the tasks that which people of my experience can do can't be commoditized. But of course, how do you become a partner of a law firm unless you've done the tasks that can now be done by AI? And I don't think anyone's got the answer yet. Certainly talking to my friends who are partners in law firms, they are more scared about the people who are in their early stages of partnership, not the junior lawyers, because the junior lawyers are much better at AI and using the AI skills than the 35-year-old junior partners. But yes, it's going to make a massive difference. If I want to generate a set of board minutes for one of the companies I'm a director of, it takes me now 30 seconds. But it takes me 30 seconds because I know what to put in.
Yeah.
Whereas if somebody who is a junior lawyer, it would still take them probably the same amount of time as if they did it themselves, because they don't have the parameters to know what to put in. And so that's going to be the interesting challenge about how do you get people skilled enough to be able to use AI properly. And we've obviously seen in the bar, people submitting pleadings with fake cases? How do you police legal AI? How do you have the judgment to know this is right, this is wrong? So I think it's going to be a really interesting few years. And as I say, I'm fortunate enough to be able to be experienced enough to know the inputs and recognise the outputs. But I think that will be the key. When will you know that you know the correct inputs, and when will you be experienced enough to monitor your outputs?
Yeah, you have to have that base of knowledge before
Correct.
you can
Correct. You
use
can't just
it as a tool.
Correct. It's not just saying what is the capital of France. It is Paris. Yeah, it is saying, okay, can you give me a security document for this loan agreement? And if you get it wrong, obviously your firm is professionally liable for that mistake. So I think that's going to be the challenge. How do firms and how do lawyers navigate that path of knowing how to use it? And one can't be King Canute or a Luddite. You can't say, go away, this isn't going to happen. Of course it is.
Yeah.
But I think there's going to be a lot more malpractice claims, because I think that people that will pretend that they are good lawyers will use AI but not know, to my earlier point, the inputs and the outputs.
Thank you. It's quite tricky, isn't it? Quite a tricky sort of set of landscape to navigate at the moment. Looking backwards, how much do you think things have changed in the last 5 years with this?
Last 5 years, it's probably the snowball going down the hill. It's accelerating. I certainly see work product from people that have been using AI, which just isn't good enough. And it goes back to my earlier point, because I know how the inputs and the outputs are. The work product that I produce and the work product that the best firms produce is still as good as ever. But you are seeing more shoddiness. Yeah.
And you kind of touched on this already, but what do you think lawyers should be aware of on the horizon from a legal tech standpoint?
Well, firstly, you've got to know the law. I know that sounds incredibly facile, but it isn't. We are lawyers. We are on the roll of solicitors. We did all go to university. We did all, in my case, go to ULaw. We all did our training contracts. So we do actually need to know. So it isn't a case of you can just pretend that you don't know. And so you've just, again, it sounds like really simple, but you've just got to go back to your fundamentals. You've got to trust your fundamentals. You've got to trust the fact that it does take many, many years to become a solicitor or a barrister, and rightly. And so that's what I would stress to people considering a career in law. Because a career in law is a fantastic thing, but it isn't easy to do it. It's a multi-year commitment to be able to do it, and then of course an even longer commitment to being good at it.
Yeah. So AI is not taking things away; it's just helping us. You think?
I think it's taking away from people that don't know what they're doing.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. And I'm going to talk a little bit about mentoring now. You split your time between pro bono work and mentoring at ULaw's Legal Advice Clinic. What inspired you to take that on?
Very simple. I was fortunate enough when I started as a trainee at Clifford Chance by some great mentors. And the best mentoring at that stage, you sort of don't know you're getting it. It's the senior partner of the department that you're in just says, come along to this meeting. And he says, we're not going to charge you for this. And just sit in the corner and be quiet. And then as you get older, you realise that was mentoring. And then the task that someone gives you, which of course they can do themselves quicker than you, but they say, well, why don't you ever go at this? And then they sit down with you and point out your faults or your mistakes. Not in a harsh way, incidentally, because, of course, someone that can't do something yet, by definition, will make mistakes. And so I was very fortunate in my career, and not just in my early years, actually, when I became a partner in a law firm, when I became relatively senior in a global financial institution, there were always people that were willing to have a chat with me about stuff. And so I was mentored at times without realising I was being mentored, and I realised that the people that were mentoring me did know they were mentoring me, even though I didn't know I was the mentee, but they knew they were the mentor. And so I've always tried to do that. So as I got more senior in private practice, I always tried to do the same things that were done for me. I often joke, if I could get 1% of the earnings of everybody I mentored, I'd be a billionaire by now. But they didn't become successful because I mentored them. They became successful because they were driven. It's a real privilege now to look around the city and to look around the major private equity houses and to see lots and lots of people that are younger than me who work with me, that if I'm just a tiny part of their success, it's a really nice thing to know that you've done that.
I think probably from what you've described, you have a particular style of mentoring of your own. How would you describe that? More like your teachers who mentored you, or do you do things a little bit differently?
I think teaching is probably the wrong word, because teaching implies a classroom environment. I'd say it's more of an osmosis. It's more of a and one of the nice things about being a junior lawyer when I was a junior lawyer is that you shared an office with someone. And I was fortunate to share offices with very senior partners. And so unless it was really confidential, you just listened. So, as I say, teaching I think is the wrong word. Often there were times where literally there's the document. You've drafted this document. Let's go through it and do it this way. But mainly it was just a observational side of it, and that's how you were mentored.
Like picking up those skills from imitation, I suppose.
Or not necessarily imitation. Sometimes you saw people who you certainly wouldn't imitate them. Perhaps they were overly aggressive, or they had a style that you chose not to pursue yourself. But it was the breadth of experiences that was the key.
And turning it around, has one of your mentees ever taught you something unexpected?
Oh, of course. I go back to my university days, and I was fortunate to be taught criminal law by a very, very senior QC, as they were then, because obviously the Queen was alive, not the King. And I remember him saying to me, I teach because every time I teach, someone teaches me something. And it's just it sounds almost cliche to say, I hadn't thought of that. But unless you are so arrogant to think that you're always right, then yes, tons and tons of times someone that's been junior to me, and so it may not have been mentoring in a sort of inverted commas, this is a mentor session, but this is us working together, and they say, are you sure about that? And I certainly found that when I went into an in-house role where you've got a bunch of guys who aren't lawyers, and he or she will be saying, okay, well, you've just said that's what we're doing, why? And that's really interesting when you're surrounded by non-lawyers, because obviously in a law firm, by definition, everyone's a lawyer. So I found it absolutely fantastic when you couldn't rest on your laurels and just say, oh, well, of course it's this, because this is the way it always is. And so, yes, so tons and tons of people that I've worked with have often asked me to go back to fundamentals and explain, why is this? And that's a really challenging thing to do, actually. Rather than saying, it is because it is.
Yeah.
It's much better if you can actually say, well, it's this for this reason.
It makes you think about it, doesn't it?
Correct. It just strips everything back. Just strips it back.
Yeah. Do you think that mentoring has changed since you started your career?
I think there are challenges in the workplace that lead to that. Obviously, when I first started, everyone was in office 5 days a week. You shared an office with a senior lawyer. Now with home working, I think that makes it more challenging. To my point earlier about osmosis, if you're not in the same environment as people, it's harder to have that sort of informal mentoring because you just aren't in proximity.
Just to talk about your pro bono work a little bit, what's the benefit of students getting involved with pro bono?
Oh, well, where do you even start on that? I mean, I was fortunate enough to be involved in pro bono literally from day one of my career. And part of it to begin with is, I feel like I need to do this. But I've been doing pro bono work, since I started work in 1996. The advantages are probably threefold actually. So firstly, you as a senior lawyer are giving the benefit of advice to somebody who couldn't afford it, hence pro bono. And the second benefit is obviously that reverse angle. Somebody's receiving the advice, they're receiving advice that they couldn't pay for. But the third one is just for the students to see advice being given. I say the way I do my pro bono clinics at ULaw, I always have a sort of 10-minute introduction, and then they observe the client, and then we have a 10-15-minute session afterwards. And I say I treat somebody who's got a dispute about their bakery in Liverpool. I'm choosing that because that was a recent one I did. Exactly the same as if I'm doing a 10 billion takeover. The issues are different, but the emotions are the same. Someone cares about something, and so I think it's I think it's absolutely fantastic for students to be able to see law being given in the actual reason in which it's meant to be given. You can read a textbook, you can go online, you can get a first in your paper, but it's like medicine. Knowing how to fix someone's arm is of no use unless you fix their arm.
It's like the practical
It's
side
practical.
of things.
And so that's why I do it, and that's why I would like to think the students that observe the sessions that I do, they're seeing a high-end practitioner practice law, and even if they may think the subject matter itself isn't high-end, that's not right. That's not right.
With that said, what's your most interesting case you've worked on with our students in the past year?
Well, I obviously alluded to the bakery.
The bakery one. You've given it away.
I know. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I mean, the bakery one was interesting. I've got to be careful because obviously there is confidentiality. So, so that was an award-winning bakery in a situation where the bakery itself was going absolutely fantastically, but the two shareholders were also emotional partners, and they'd split up as a emotional partnership. And so they were looking for advice as to how to keep their business going, despite the failure of their emotional relationship. And I just found that really interesting because, again, I can't say too much because I'll give it away. But I ordered some of their bread, bloody good bread, by the way.
Really,
great bread.
It's a good cause then.
And so that's what one. The other ones I really like doing is the bullies, the people who have been told something that you've got to stop using this because.
Like big companies telling small companies they can't do things.
Small companies. The bullies. I hate bullies.
Yeah.
So again, I can't really give specifics because that would breach confidentiality.
Yep.
But there's something really nice, and that's not always been in my ULaw pro bono work, but in other aspects, there's something really nice about sending a letter to a corporation with my name and my LinkedIn profile, and just saying to them, you can't do this. I find that really
sticking up for the small people.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I'm going to ask you a little bit about your kind of general career reflections now. What's helped you stay adaptable throughout your career?
I think linked to my first point, I just enjoy things. I'm intellectually curious. I just enjoy learning. So very simplistic, but I think that's the overwhelming philosophy of how I think about things.
And is there a lesson you learned the hard way that you now pass on to others?
Ooh. Now, I did think about this answer. I think only once or twice in my career did I ever go to a meeting ill-prepared. And I thought I could wing it. And guess what?
You couldn't?
I couldn't wing it. And so I always tell the students when I do that sort of 10-minute precursor that I mentioned, I always say, don't ever go to a meeting ill-prepared. And I did it once or twice, and I've never done it since.
It's a good life lesson
Yeah.
in general, even outside of work, I would say.
Yeah.
You know, what does success look like for you now compared to when you were starting your career?
Well, when you start your career in your 20s, then you can often equate success with money. I mean, let's be blunt. Law, if you're successful, is a very remunerative profession, and so I'm not overly financially motivated, but you become a lawyer, not a social worker, for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
And so I was probably thinking, and trained at a Magic Circle firm. I'm a partner in a big global law firm, so it's like money, money, money. That wasn't the sole aim, but it's a nice flow through from what you do. Now, what does success mean? I am fortunate, having been in law for 25 to 30 years, that aspect is no longer important to me. So now it's just fun. I have a pretty basic rule that I don't work with people I don't like anymore, and it doesn't mean you have to like everyone. I just don't with people that I don't like.
Yeah.
And so now for me, success is at my age, too young to retire, too old to work 90 hours a week. It's just finding things that I just find fun and useful.
Got a bit of the luxury of choice.
Yeah, I guess so.
With what you do.
Yeah. That's such a good phrase, Nick. Yeah, it's the so sometimes people say, oh my goodness, you're on the board of X, they pay you so and so. That's a lot of money. And I think no, they're not paying me for that. They're paying me for the 25 years of work I did first.
Yeah.
So of course the money that you can earn, and if you look at the rates that senior partners of law firms charge, you might think it's obscene, but it isn't, because you're paying for all the work that got them there in the first place.
Years of experience.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to ask you for your advice for our students and our young alumni. You've worked across so many environments, from large firms to in-house roles and now consulting. And what advice would you give to students trying to decide which path is right for them?
Don't make decisions in a rigid way. If you think that going to a Magic Circle or a US law firm and earning squillions as a young lawyer is for you, fine. But if after a year you hate it, then don't be bound by it. I'm not going to make sort of metaphorical analogies about rivers flowing or things like that. But that's really how you need to be. Just do what you think is right for you at the time, and don't pre-plan. Don't say, I'm a trainee at Linklaters. I'm going to be a partner at Linklaters.
So stay open to different opportunities.
Stay open to different things.
Yeah. And what do you think are the most valuable skills for young professionals, which we might have sort of just touched upon, entering legal or financial sectors today?
Well, precisely that. Just knowing that you've got to learn more.
Yeah.
I'm quite fortunate in that my personality trait, I'm quite mathematical, and when I read law, I thought law was words, and it turned out that the type of law that I do is actually numbers as well, because a client says, "Okay, can you describe the way I want to make money in words?" So that's just an example.
Formula.
Yeah, well, it's just an example of just being adaptable.
Yeah. And is there a common mistake you see people make early in their careers?
Correct.
And
absolutely correct.
Yeah.
Choosing too early.
Choosing too soon.
I want to be X.
Yeah.
And then if X isn't working for them, the inability to move away from X at the right time.
Yeah, so having that kind of openness to different opportunities.
Yeah.
A couple more questions.
Okay.
Is there a book, podcast or film that has inspired your thinking recently that you would recommend?
No. I thought about this question and I deliberately get to answer no, because that's like there are tons and tons of things that I read and podcasts I listen to, but they're right for me and what I do. So for example, I could sit here and say I listen to the Rest Is History podcast, which I do, but that might be useless to anyone that's watching this podcast. So I suppose go onto the generic sites like TED Talks and find what's what is right for you. But no, I certainly wouldn't say you must read X.
No.
You must listen to Y, because that would be completely inconsistent with my constant theme of adaptability and what's right for you.
Yeah. Maybe the perfect podcast hasn't been made yet.
Well, why don't we make it?
And final question, what's the best piece of advice you've ever received that's still relevant to you today?
That is from the, I'm going to name drop now actually. So the first person I shared an office with when I was a trainee was a guy called Matthew Layton, who went on to become the global managing partner of Clifford Chance, and we're still friends. It's kind of weird, by the way, when your mentor becomes a friend, and it was actually him that pulled me up on those two times that I said earlier. Read, be prepared.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's the, I can just remember in 1999 feeling humiliated that I hadn't read.
Yeah, good advice.
Yeah.
Great advice. That is all, and thank you so much for joining us today, Paul, and for sharing all of your wisdom, and also for all the work you do for the Pro Bono Clinic and mentoring our students.
I really enjoy it, and what I would stress to people as they go through their careers, you can start doing pro bono work really early in your career, because if you can write a letter and there is someone who can't write a letter, then you can help them.
Yeah. I can imagine people see a barrier to doing pro bono work that they aren't experienced enough, so that's really a good piece of advice.
Yeah, definitely.
It's easy to feel that imposter syndrome, isn't it, when you're new and shiny and you've just trained and you're early in your career.
Yeah.
That's really good advice. Thank you.
My pleasure.